Aquinnah, thank you so much for joining me today to talk about your Praxis career and success story. You are a well-known name in the Praxis community. You have kind of been involved for a little bit, so I really want to capture like your experience going through the program. What were you doing before that? And then ultimately what you're doing today, because I know a lot has shifted in your career overall. Maybe you can kick us off by kind of sharing like, what were you doing before Praxis? Like, what year was that? When did you join the program? And who was Aquinnah before?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for doing this. I'm super excited. Let's see, before Praxis, I was a dancer, a dance teacher. It was something I had thought I was going to stick with and wanted to do for, the long term, but the dance lifespan, career-wise, is very short. And I wasn't feeling like it was super feasible to be a dance teacher for an extended period of time. I was looking at all of my dance teachers and they were teaching at my studio and studios that were 45 minutes or an hour away, and they were constantly commuting, and it just looked very stressful. And also I hate driving, so that was a big turnoff. But I never wanted to go to college, so I didn't have this like grand plan for my future. I love to write, had always loved to write, but I didn't know what I could do with it other than sit down and get an English major and then decide. That seemed like a safe option. So even though I didn't want to go, even though I had never wanted to go, I applied to 4 different colleges my senior year of high school, I think, and it was kind of thing where I wasn't going to do it halfway because I don't do anything halfway, but also I wasn't super into it. So I was trying to like balance all of my like irrational you should do this thoughts with all of my this doesn't feel right emotions. And by the time I got my first acceptance letter, because I had worked so hard on the applications, I thought I was going to feel great. Like this is a happy, joyous occasion. And it was not. I felt dreadful. I was like, no, this is not it. So I guess I waited for all of my acceptance letters to come in, and then I filed them all away and I applied to Praxis. And I had known about Praxis since I was maybe 14. My mom had brought it up to me because she knew I didn't want to go to college. And the first thing I told her was, I can't do this because I have no tech skills and they want tech skills and they're not going to like me. It's not going to be good. And I still kind of felt that way when I applied. At every stage of the application process, I was like, God, this is the one where they decide, like, we don't do dance teachers, really. Like, that's not going to work out. And so it was really surreal when I got my acceptance email and I thought, oh, they don't hate me. Like, this is so great. And I remember joining the community and thinking to myself, like, oh, like, here is the wave of joy that I expected to feel when I was accepted into college. This is so much better. So yeah, that was before.
Awesome. I love that. That's a really great recap. What was it about college that didn't feel exciting for you?
When I walked myself through this, I actually did this in like maybe 60 seconds as I was looking at my first acceptance letter. I walked myself through what 4 years of college was going to look like. And as an English major, I thought, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to read a whole bunch of books that I've already read. And then I'm going to write papers on them, which is going to make me hate them. And then I'll go get my history minor and argue with my professors because we're not going to agree on things. And then I'll fail and it's going to be terrible. And it was the kind of thing where I could have framed it differently. Like I could have made college a great experience and it would have been fine, but I still didn't know what I was going to do afterwards. I didn't want to teach English, and I wanted to be a novelist, and I didn't really know what an English degree was going to help me with. It wasn't going to help me write my novel. It wasn't going to give me like extra time to do that on the side. So the whole, I guess, like long-term idea of college was a dead end for me, and to spend that much money, time, and energy on it felt really futile when I thought about it.
Mm-hmm. And so, with an English degree, you were just thinking like, well, English is a interest that I know that I have and love, but like it kind of forced you to think in the short term, and you were like afterwards, I don't know where that's going to lead me.
Exactly. It was the prospects were bleak.
That's a good way to put it. So you said you had known about Praxis since you were 14. What kind of like, besides the feeling that you lacked tech skills or what we were looking for in an ideal applicant, what do you think are other contributing factors that kind of like stopped you from going for Praxis as your first decision?
Oh gosh. I think the fear of failure, like, which I know is something we all experience at some point, but I had like this very tangible, almost like blockage where I thought, you know, I could apply and I could get in and it could be fine, or I could apply and I could get in and then I could fail afterwards. Like it could still be bad because now my lack of tech skills is going to come back and bite me. Or like, what if I can't land a job and then I've like let everyone down? They let me into the program and now like I've disappointed them. My fear of failure is very rarely about me. It's always about how other people feel about it. So I didn't want to get into the program and love it and then disappoint everyone.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, it's interesting because you had like two really distinct interests. Like you were a dancer for most of your life and you loved it so much you were thinking about becoming a dance teacher. And then you loved literature and that's what made you think like maybe I'm going to be an English major. What was the connect to like Praxis could be something that I'd enjoy and could lead to a career that I would also enjoy?
Good question. Um, I I continue to strive to be a novelist. I'm almost finished with my first manuscript, and I don't think I would be had I gone to college. I think I would have spent a lot of time writing papers and not a lot of time working on my own projects. And it had occurred to me that, the odds of instant success with a novel are so slim. I'm going to want to be doing something else, like as I'm trying to, fulfill this dream of mine. And I had always wanted to run my own business, but I was not confident just picking up and starting it. And I knew that a lot of Praxians, because I had done extensive research into Praxis, trying to like justify to myself that like you can do this. I knew that a lot of Praxians went and started their own freelance businesses and launched their own startups and did their own things. And I thought, that seems so much more fulfilling and like achievable and tangible than going and sitting in a classroom and like hoping that I have like random spare time to do something I want to do. So I think that was the connection for me where I was like, I am really artsy and this could go really badly and I could let everyone down, or it could be really good and I could get to the other side and be able to launch something on my own that would be lucrative while I continue to work on these projects that I love.
So like kind of going after like achieving that balance so you can keep the love and passion that you have for this one thing, but also find a love and passion in something else. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about you getting accepted into the program and going through an experience that probably was unlike anything you've ever experienced before. What was it like when you joined the program for the first time? Your experience with the community, advisors, the curriculum. How did that all feel to you?
It was so different. It was so different. I had spent so much time in a dance studio for years on end with the same people every day. I always considered us all to be family because it was that, or like we just all decided we didn't like each other. Like it was one or the other. You you had to love each other or you didn't. And it was so different to be in like an online atmosphere, and everyone was so nice. Not that my dance community wasn't nice, but like it was different to be in a space where the mentality was all very much like your power is yours. You can do what you want with your career, and you're here because we want you. And it was, you know, it was like my dance community was perfect for me while I was there, and I was moving over to this other perfect thing that was now perfect, and I didn't know it could be like that. Like, I didn't know you could make such a jump and like feel so at peace about it. And I remember like writing up an introductory post, like trying to be friendly and like hyped, and I was hyped. And people were commenting and saying things like, I love the energy coming from this post. And I was like, yes, because I'm so happy to be here. So that was when I first joined the community. And then boot camp was great. I got to know so many of the advisors, and I mean, everyone is just so helpful and like open and generous with their time and their energy and feedback. Like, I used to really fear feedback, especially negative feedback, as I think we all do, but all of a sudden, like, the feedback I would get from advisors would be so just like gratifying. Like, yes, I worked really hard on this project and now it's going to get better. And so that became like a whole new mindset for me, and I loved that. And I actually started going through placement to land my apprenticeship at the end of my first month in the program, which was a huge shock to my system. But it was one of the hardest and coolest experiences really of my whole life. So yeah, my program experience itself, like separate from the apprenticeship, was phenomenal.
That's awesome. Yeah, so you had kind of like an untraditional experience going through the program as you went through placement really early on. What were some of your goals that you had when you were stepping in? Did you have like any idea of what kind of job you wanted to land or what kind of skills you wanted to develop, or were you ready to just kind of be taken where life wanted to take you?
That's a really good question. I actually went back and forth on this because I had goals going into placement. I knew that I wanted some sort of marketing role, that I wanted to get really good at marketing. And I already had writing skills, which was great because I thought, you know, that can transfer over, I can use that. But the more I thought about it, the more I wanted a writing job, like not like over here, we're going to do some like social media marketing campaigns, and over here, like you can write the captions for them. Like, I just wanted to do the writing. And in the end, I was fine with whatever I ended up with. But that was probably my biggest struggle in the placement process, was like deciding what I wanted to do.
Yeah. So what opportunity did you ultimately end up getting?
So I was hired by the Mission, which is now called mission.org. I was hired initially as a staff writer, so I did get the writing position, and I was like, okay, great, which is how I would have been had I landed a marketing role, but like, I was so happy. It was, again, like one of the most challenging things I have ever done was this apprenticeship experience, but it was totally worth it. And it's interesting because sometimes I wake up in the morning, I remind myself, like, you made it through your apprenticeship. Today's going to be so easy. And it was very startup-like. I did a lot of things that were not writing. I did a lot of social media content. I did a lot of like very basic graphic design. And by the end of my apprenticeship, I was actually running our Medium publication and sending our daily newsletter out to about 500,000 people, which gave me a heart attack every time I did it. But it was so cool. I really especially loved my last month of my apprenticeship because my role like almost completely changed, and it was really fun. So.
Wow, that's awesome. And yeah, that would give me a heart attack too. What are some of the top things that you learned both through the program, like boot camp, and then also from working with the Mission?
This is a hard question to like narrow down. Especially in boot camp, I learned the importance of having proof of your skills. And this was kind of reinforced during my time at the Mission because the skills I knew I had, my skills in writing and my skills in storytelling, were not skills that thus far over the course of my career I had really been able to prove to anybody. And so now I had this portfolio of projects that I had worked on during boot camp and through my apprenticeship. I wrote so many articles, and I had learned, very basic SEO and knew how to write in that category. And the way that I started viewing all of my projects was less like, and here's another article, and more like, here is something else that I can use to show people that I can do this. Proof became so important to me. And the other thing that I always tell people I gained from Praxis on the whole was a sense of freedom, because I had always felt like I needed gatekeepers. I needed someone to tell me that like I could move on to the next step in my life or career or, whatever. I felt like I needed someone to tell me that was okay. And all of a sudden I didn't. I felt like I was prepared to take on whatever job I wanted, whatever role I wanted, whatever project I wanted, and that it was going to be smooth because I had my proof and I had my skills, and it was going to be fine.
Yeah, I love that. Those are two really like valuable but also truly like beautiful things to learn. Like they serve you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So after the apprenticeship with the mission, what was kind of your transition there? Did you take the decision to exit and start your own thing? Did you want to continue on the track of like, being a staff writer for a startup? Where were you at like mentally at that point?
Yeah. Mentally, I mean, I was exhausted. It was an exhausting 6 months of my life. But I was ready to transition, and I did end up launching my freelance writing and editing business maybe a month after I graduated. The only reason I waited that long, in fact, because I was so excited, the only reason I waited that long was because I had talked with my apprenticeship advisor, and she was like, I feel like you need a few weeks off. Like, don't you want to go do something that isn't working? And I thought that was so funny. I was like, no, not really. And then I was like, oh, I am so tired. So I did end up taking a couple of weeks off, and then I launched, and it was, I think, one of the most like terrifying but also freeing moments of what I would consider to be my Praxis journey was, I looked back and I was like, this is what I've wanted to do since the beginning. Like, this is where I wanted to get. And now I was here, and I was like, worth it.
Wow, that's amazing. That really is. And is that what you're doing today?
It is what I'm doing today. I am a freelance writer and editor and an admin assistant, which happened kind of spontaneously, and it's been so fun. I always thought I would like to be an admin assistant, but like didn't ever make plans to be one. So it was wonderful when I got the opportunity. And so I get to do that now too. And I tell people that I work my dream job because I really can't think of anything I'd rather be doing.
That's so awesome. So looking back at your Praxis journey, what is like the top thing that sticks out to you that you're like, I will remember that for the rest of my life, or that's like the most valuable thing that I got out of this experience?
I always tell people that my favorite thing about Praxis is the community. I really was unsure when I started the program. Like, I had heard that it was like a family and everybody was just like so close, and I just thought, like, how do you get to be that close when so much of it is online? And like, what if I'm like the one weird person who thinks that, and like I'm just like the one weird like outlier? Like, it's just not gonna work for me. Like, I'm not gonna get to know people. And that was like such an unfounded fear. I have had such an amazing time getting to know past participants and current participants, and people who haven't even technically like started boot camp yet, and everyone is so, like, it does feel like a family, and all the advisors are like so great about making you feel welcome. They're great about networking. They're great about finding you the opportunities that you're really excited about. It's invaluable. Like, the hands down best part of the program, I would have to say, is the community.
What would you say is the biggest change that you've seen in yourself? you know, a year from the program, and then even now, because you've graduated for a little bit now?
Yeah. I think I have grown massively in confidence. I am still very introverted, and you know, I've learned to just be okay with that. But I used to hate phone calls. I used to dread doing these video calls. I used to even dread, like, to an extent, like replying to emails, just like constantly afraid like something I wrote down was going to come out wrong and it was going to make me look unprofessional or just like out of the loop. And because you have to communicate during this program, it really, like, it forces that like anxiety out of you. And I don't think I can be grateful enough for that, because I really do feel like I left some massive like social anxiety behind.
Well, that's awesome. That really is awesome. And that's like a super common thing that I hear, especially when I do these interviews. It's just like the gain in confidence, not only to be able to, like, you know, launch your own business or like take on that, you know, role that you never thought you could, but just in yourself to like be you and feel comfortable in your own skin.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Last question I'll ask you is, if you were talking to somebody, giving advice to someone who was in your shoes before you started the program, someone who maybe got that college acceptance letter and they realized they weren't as excited as they thought they would be, and now they're feeling really confused about what lies ahead of them and what decision they should take, what advice would you give to them?
That's a really good question. I think it's really important to take a step back from any expectations that anyone's put on you, really including yourself. The expectations of others get so ingrained in us that sometimes they feel like they were our ideas, but they're maybe not. I think it's important to get kind of objective about where you are and where you think you would like to be. And I think one of the most important things to keep in mind is, like, where you think you want to be right now doesn't have to be where you think you want to be in a year. But to find something that you're excited about, I think is so powerful. Not something you feel like you have to do or something someone told you to do, but like something you're excited about. And then go after it, especially if you would like to apply to Praxis. I think it's so important to have self-motivation and determination, because coming in with like a wishy-washy mindset about starting anything is, I think, would make it really hard, harder than it needs to be. So choosing something you like and just going after it and feeling that like inner sense of, yes, like this is what I'm supposed to do. And sometimes it takes trial and error too. And I think that's one of the things that Praxis is really great for, is that you can come in and know that you want to do something and you want to do it really well, but you don't have to know exactly what that thing is. But having like a sense of drive behind you, I think, is my biggest piece of advice, is just like find that sense of, yes, I'm supposed to be here.
Love that. Love that. That was beautiful. Aquinnah, thank you so much for joining me, your wise words, and of course, sharing your really inspiring story through the program. I wish you well in everything that you do, and I'm excited to chat with you soon.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This has been so fun.